It's Friday. Things are looking a little bit better. I want to gauge your reaction. I don't know if you know about it or not, but we had a state rep on an hour ago, Mark Fincham, and the House got a bill passed, and it goes to the Senate, and hopefully the governor will sign it, again, about protecting businesses from frivolous lawsuits. Nobody can go into a restaurant or a business and say, I got sick because of you, and I'm going to sue you now. I know you guys are working on that in Congress. Your reaction to that, and what's the latest that might happen federally?
Well, I think that's necessary. It's a smart thing to do. I'm not surprised it passed on party line vote. One of the biggest donors organizations to Democrats are trial lawyers. Trial lawyers have been in Arizona already looking for ways to litigate, and I've heard of lawsuits elsewhere already by trial lawyers. So it's not surprising that was party line. On the federal level, I introduced my piece of legislation probably about almost a month ago now, I guess. And I think my legislation is pretty strong. It's a good way to go. I spoke to the leadership in the House this week. They said that they're incorporating that. They're trying to get a mix of this. I know that it's been to the Senate. I know my bill is also we gave it to the administration. So we're trying to make sure that gets there. But that's an effort. The thing to remember, Garrett, is the federal district courts don't see nearly as many of these types of cases as you would see in state courts. You still need the protection because that's where some of these folks will try to go. But this is necessary, and it's a good thing that it happened here in Arizona.
Yes, it is. Congressman Andy Biggs is on KNST AM 790. One of the main stories, I don't know if you heard this or not. Joe Biden is being kept in his basement. Joe Biden has never been a good candidate. He's third time he's running for president, never got more than 1%. We all know this. Media's trying to build him up. There's obviously something wrong with him, but I believe he had a very racist, very Hillary deplorable moment. I don't know if you heard it, but I'm going to play it right now. And I just want you to react to what Joe Biden said, which I think is utterly racist. Listen to this.
Listen, you got to come see us when you come to New York, VP Biden.
I will.
It's a long way until November. We got more questions.
You got more questions, but I tell you, if you have a problem figuring out whether you're for me or Trump, and you ain't black.
That apparently he thinks every black person is a Democrat, and if you don't vote Democrat, you're not black. That is outrageous.
Well, of course it's outrageous, but it's I view it as typical pandering. That's the Democrats' stock and trade is to racially pander and divide the country, and really it's a shame because I was thinking about this the other day actually, and then it kind of dovetailed when I saw that video that you mentioned when I saw it. I thought, you know what, we really need to start realizing that where we are today is we're all Americans. We are Americans regardless of your color or creed or whatever. And that's the key factors. We're all Americans. We may not all agree on everything, but this racial pandering and attempt to divide the nation that my Democrat friends always seem to engage in is not productive. It is destructive, and it's just a shame that he would be so locked into that, what I would call a suboptimal path of our societal relationships.
I don't know if you saw this or not, Congressman. Just continuing with the voting aspect of things, I don't really believe polls. But I look at crowds, and there's other things, going back to 2016, seeing how people reacted. You have to feel it and sense it. But in Virginia, I don't know if you heard about this town called Stanton, Virginia. They just had an election a couple of days ago. So they're a big Democrat stronghold. They voted for Obama twice, Hillary in 2016. They voted for McAuliffe and Northam, the racist baby killer, for governor. They're all Democrat all the time. And the three Democrat incumbents that were running for city council got almost double the votes they did 4 years ago, but still lost to the Republican challengers. And it says the biggest reason why is the lockdown measures and the Second Amendment violations. Do you think that there could really be, based on that, in a blue city like that, in a blue state, could there be just a big, giant red wave headed our way that the media is trying to suppress?
Well, there sure could be. There's a tremendous backlash. You've got people that are sick and tired of the lockdown and the abuse of these tyrannical state and local leaders. And so it seems to me you got a lot of people that are getting out and starting to protest now and some defy these orders. But you also have what we've always seen from people who want to just obey the law and have it work, and they love freedom. They don't necessarily come out and say anything, but they go to the ballot box. And you saw it also with Mike Garcia in California, where a district that was won by Hillary Clinton by 9 points or something like that went to a Republican congressman who had never run for office before. So it just tells me that the demise that has been being predicted by the Democrats may be way overblown.
Congressman Andy Biggs is on KNST AM 790. If we can go back to the COVID-19 Chinese virus talks for just a minute. One of the big stories that is just being hidden is the fact that governors like Michigan's Whitmer, New York's Cuomo, they all had executive orders that said nursing homes have to take back COVID-19 positive patients. And story came out, over 4,300 people died in nursing homes in New York. There are thousands that did it in Minnesota. There's thousands that did it in Michigan. I mean, if you look at all of this, there's the outrage. The media is trying to scare us that there are almost 100,000 people dead from this. There's like no outrage, no calling as to what's going on, no protection being demanded for these seniors that just need our care after giving their lives for us. And on top of that, there seems to be so much fraud in death certificates. No matter what people die of, they're putting down COVID so they can get extra reimbursement, and that is severely inflating the numbers.
Yeah, so don't forget Pennsylvania there, where you have a severe problem with that also. So this is really kind of way this is gone. And when you start looking at the demographics, even in Arizona, when I was calculating based on published demographics, you're going to see a substantial number of people who are well over 65 that are increasing the infection fatality rate. I mean, that is enormous, even in Arizona. So we haven't targeted these people enough in protecting them, and I mean, we're doing, in my opinion, there's so much inhumanity there, not necessarily all in Arizona, but throughout the country, where you have these folks in assisted living nursing home or nursing home facilities. They're the most vulnerable, and they are forbidding personal visits by family members, etc. So these people who already have comorbidities, they're already in stress with regard to their own other personal health. They're in a facility that if COVID-19 gets in there, seems to run rampant, and they're not letting visitation by loved ones. That is inhumane, and so there's so much we could do differently in most states than we have done. It's outrageous, actually.
It really is. Congressman Andy Biggs is on KNST AM 790. It seems like the Mike Flynn case, the Obamagate, the media is doing a really good job at just kind of pushing it aside. They just don't want to deal with it, which obviously means some bad things were there. And we've talked about this a little bit. I mean, there are a lot of people that are frustrated. I mean, you're a lawyer, you know the law. Is there a chance? I mean, to me, it looks like, and you alluded to it, it looks to me that Obama directed this from the top. You know, he knew things. Now we're finding out, the Washington Post reporting that Mike Flynn wasn't even unmasked. They didn't even try to hide his identity. They were literally spying on him. They're just spying on him to get stuff. Is there a chance that somehow Obama and Biden can get away with this because there literally is no law that they actually broke?
Well, the problem is how the law was written, of course. And so, yeah, they spied on American citizens, particularly Michael Flynn. But where we can get someone did this. They leaked this to friendly left-wing media outlets. That is a felony with up to 10 years in prison because of that leak. We've got to ascertain who it is, and that person needs to be prosecuted. We also have to rewrite the law, and that's part of the problem I have with what's going on with regard to FISA, because this is related to FISA. So we have a FISA reauthorization that's going to come out probably next week with very little reforms to it. That is hugely problematic. So yeah, you need to prosecute some of these people. Now, there are other things that we can go after them besides the unmasking regarding Michael Flynn. And don't forget, we've got a judge there that has gone off the beam. Thank goodness for the D.C. appellate folks who basically are going after Judge Sullivan for his abuse of power as a judge. But we have got to go after some of these people for other criminal violations that were there, and we've got to expose all of this, right from the President Obama, Joe Biden, Clapper, Brennan, Sally Yates, all of these folks that were involved there, Susan Rice, and the bottom line, Garrett, is this: all of this was done for political purposes. There was no national security risk here at all. It was all done for political purposes. And to me, that is probably one of the things that's most clearly wrong about this is we cannot allow abuse of process and power for political purposes. We can't allow it for anything. But when you're doing it so you can prevent political opponents from just being elected fairly and squarely, that's really got to be something that we stop in its tracks.
And Attorney General Barr came out a few days ago, earlier in the week, and he said, look, I don't think we're looking at Obama or Biden for anything criminally. There's nothing in front of me as of now. Now, I took those words as of now to thinking maybe there's something that could come up in the future. But some people that really are sick and tired of Democrats getting away with this and Trump being targeted and wasting our money and our time and destroying our country, were very upset that the Attorney General would say something like that so soon. Do you think it was wrong of him to actually say that, or is it just too much to think that we could actually get a former president or vice president?
I think it's kind of a mixed bag of that, Garrett. I think, number one, the way that he phrased it meant that they were still looking at Obama and Biden. And so that made me feel better that they're still looking at him. But then on the other hand, the thought that we're going to prosecute a former president is really that it's almost inconceivable. It's almost inconceivable. But it doesn't mean that we can't investigate and that we can't provide transparency and that we can't find those who are co-conspirators. And, don't forget James Comey here. James Comey sitting right there briefing him, et cetera. The guy is basically organizing a coup. And apparently he's keeping President Obama notified of that coup attempt. So we've got to uncover all of that. And if you have to prosecute, if a president has abused power in a criminal way, then you have to really weigh whether you want to go after him and basically, you would spawn certainly a civil war type of backlash from the people who support him. So that's really where it is. We shouldn't worry about that too much, except for you have to worry about that. You have to consider that.
So should the play be then basically all these people that gave Obama the info that he sought, go after them to try to make a clear example of them so nobody in the future would try to do it even if a president asked because they don't want to get locked up?
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly right. I mean, so I'll give you two examples. Number one, you have to specifically deter anybody that was providing that information in case the presidency should change hands to the Democrats, which inevitably it will, and then they would be called back. Then you have to generally deter anybody from any party from abusing it. But I'll just give you an example. President Trump, I know, has asked for declassification of certain FBI records. Those should be declassified. I've asked for those same records to be declassified. Christopher Wray is not declassifying them. He is keeping them under wraps. That is a huge, huge problem when the President of the United States is asking for transparency. That is completely different than asking for cover-up, which is what Obama and team were doing. And that's the distinction here. If there's a cover-up going on, don't forget, they were prepared to indict Richard Nixon for the cover-up in Watergate. And these types of shenanigans where you are covering up criminal conduct that you may be instigating is hugely problematic. And so we have got to investigate, and where you can, you indict. But
how does that happen? Can you explain that, Congressman? Where the president demands certain documents, he's the commander in chief, and the FBI director just literally ignores it, and nothing can be done. Like the leader of the free world is literally powerless.
Well, the thing that's bugging me, Garrett, is that I know he's asked for it, and I was there and I heard the excuse given, and the excuse is something like, "Well, we're working on it. It's just taking some time to go through the entire legal vetting process of this." Well, I mean, I know some of these records were supposed to be declassified. I requested myself that there be a review of some of these records quite some time ago, well over a year ago, and I realized that there's a problem. But what this is representative of is how deep the deep state is, and I think it really frustrates the president. I don't want to speak for the president, but I have heard him say publicly that he had no idea how deep the swamp was. And this deep state mentality that's there, the statist mentality that is content with undermining a sitting elected president of the United States, that is part of our problem. And the best way we can get that is to start eliminating bureaucratic power and going back to a federalist model where the states really are the ones driving these policies as opposed to the federal government, which is no longer federal government, by the way, Garrett. It's really become a national government.
Yeah. Oh, man. Well, Congressman Biggs, thank you so much for the time and all this information. I really do appreciate it. And I hope you have a fantastic Memorial Day weekend, and we will definitely catch up with you soon.
Thanks, Garrett. Same to you. Have a great weekend.